a big transfer window for the Canadian team as well. 14 Canadian players, by my count, that are in this camp made moves in the transfer window. And just to go through them all, if you'll stand with us here for a moment, Jonathan David to Juventus, Kone to Sassuolo, Buchanan to Villarreal, Oloase to Villarreal, Saliba to Anderlecht, De Fougerols to Dender on loan, Larin to Feyenoord, Brim to NIC Breda, of course he's not in this camp, Derek Cornelius to Rangers on loan, Daniel Jebison not in this camp to Preston, Liam Fraser not in this camp, and who knows if we'll see him again in a Canadian camp, to Reading, but he scored a banger there a few weeks ago, Jamie Knight-Labelle to Swindon Town, Theo Baird to Lausanne. I have a toque from Lausanne from when I went to a game to watch Matthew Choinière not play last year for Grasshopper, Matthew Choinière to LAFC, and Joel Waterman to the Chicago Fire. What's your favorite move of this? What does all this move means? But let's start off with your favorite move from this summer, because there were a lot of them, and thank God the transfer window's over.
Also, just don't forget, I think there's a 15th, like Dominik Zator also moved within Poland. He was capped under Jesse Marsch, so technically he's still in the player poll. But favorite move, I think you got to go simple. I think for me, it's kind of been Tajon Buchanan to Villarreal. Like I just can't. Even before the hat trick happened, I think I said it on this show. Like I feel like it was such a perfect move in terms of him finding a really good level, and the kind of level we want more Canadians at, right? Like you don't need them going to the big 5 clubs in the world if they're not going to play. But a Villarreal is such a good sweet spot because you're still probably flirting with that top 20, top 15, and he's playing regularly. He's shining. He looks like himself. He's playing in his natural position. Like he really ticked all the boxes you'd want from a move. Like fits the system. Is going to play a lot. Like he's well liked by his manager, well liked by the fans. There's a certain amount of prestige. Like they paid a good amount of good fee for him. He's going to play Champions League. He's going to compete for trophies. Like I really love that Tajon Buchanan move. I mean, I gave it an A+ in my One Soccer report card for a reason among the transfers. But man, I mean, there's a lot of good transfers as well. So I'll throw it to you, and maybe I'll throw an honorable mention after.
I'm going to go with Tani Oluwase to Villarreal. I thought what he had at Minnesota United was great, but this was hitting the transfer button at the perfect time for Tani Oluwase. He was in form. He knew exactly what he could do with the Minnesota side. It's a shame that he won't be able to reap the benefits of that because, of course, they're still in the U.S. Open Cup, and they could lift a trophy very soon with that, and then they're outside shot at the MLS Cup later this fall as well. But I think to take the step up at this point, you're in form, you know how to score, you're fit, you step right into the season, you're young as well. He's only 25 years old that he steps into Villarreal. He'll have a long season, of course, coming off, the January start to the MLS preseason and going all the way to the end of the World Cup next year. So he won't have a break, but this is the perfect time to take that chance for Tani Oluwase. And it'll be interesting to see whether he actually cracks this Villarreal lineup, because they did sign another attacker in Manor Solomon. So we'll see whether he's able to get the minutes he needs. But I think this was the perfect time to take a very smart gamble for Tani Oluwase.
I really like that one. Just, 2 others I would throw out in the at least that are closer to my favorites. I think you have to shout out Jonathan David to Juventus. Ultimately, for him to wait as long as he did, you really wanted him to make a right move, and you were worried that maybe he would force, because you're a free agent, it's tough because when there's transfers, right? Like it's different because clubs will seek you out. They're paying a fee for you. But when you're a free agent, you're kind of stuck by what the market dictates. And I'm happy that he ended up at a big club. He's already playing regularly, playing a big role, but there's still competition there. Like Vlahovic is pushing, having a good start to this season as he fights it for a spot. They just signed Loic Openda. But I like because Jonathan David's suited to that. And I think stylistically this move is going to push him to a new level. And you can kind of see it with Canada, like that he comes, like there's a new confidence there that you could see in glimpses against Romania. So just shout out to that because it's a major move. Like now you have another Canadian at a heavyweight club where he's a star. He's a key piece. Him and Jonathan David, or him and Alphonso Davies, started really killing it in that regard. And I just wanted to shout out Nathan Saliba to Anderlecht. Like it's just the perfect gateway move of you're in MLS, you're young, you move to Belgium at a perfect age, 21, 20, right? Where you can be there for 3 years, 4 years, you're still 24, 25. And then, the world's your oyster, so to speak. I think it's such a smart move, and it's a path we've seen now with so many Canadians that I love that he got this opportunity. And I think you can see the confidence as well at Anderlecht that he's been giving. So I just wanted to shout out those two moves.
In terms of an underrated move for me, I'm going to go another player that went to Belgium and Luc de Fougerolles. Of course, that's on loan, but going to a lower table team in Dender in Belgium, I think is also smart as well, because there's a lot of defending he's getting to do in the Belgian league, and he's playing against some very good attackers as well that are trying to use the Belgian league as that step up to the next level as well. So I really like Luc de Fougerolles on loan to Dender. It would have been different if he had been sold, because that's a very different look, but he's still very much within Fulham's plans, and to take a step into a club like Dender, I think is a very smart move for him. And I don't mind Matthew Choinière to LAFC either. He wasn't, able to crack it in Switzerland as he had kind of hoped with Grasshopper. He comes to LAFC, of course, owned by the same ownership as Grasshopper. And he's getting to play with a player like Son Heung-min as well, which he didn't even know when he signed his contract with LAFC on loan. But your least favorite move of this transfer window, and I'll start us off and I'll say I really don't like Derek Cornelius going to the Scottish League with Rangers.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I'm kind of with you on that. It's tough because he's joining club-wise. I think it's a good move. Like Rangers, what we do have to remember, there's their fan base is passionate. There is a certain expectation, and you've seen it with when you're in a big club in a league like that. Yeah, you're dominant, but it's kind of fascinating because you literally, in most leagues, right, there's not this expectation to win every week, mostly because it's impossible. In the Premier League, there's maybe one team that can think, or two teams that can think that way, and even then it's teams are going to lose. But legitimately, when you're a Celtic, when you're a Rangers, when you're a Red Star Belgrade, right, when Milan Borjan was there, there's this expectation to literally win every week. As soon as you lose a match, coaches are getting fired, players are getting out. So from one point, there's this certain pressure there that I like, but I agree. At the end of the day, for a defender, you want to defend. And when you're on a team where you're going to just be so dominant for 80% of the games, I just wonder how much he's going to be actually tested. And compared to the other leagues, I think it's tough too, because he'd kind of proven that he'd be decent enough to stick around in a top 5 league. And I think it would have continued to push his development. So yeah, I think with among the ones Canadian guys have made, it's definitely not my favorite, and it doesn't push what the player could use as much. I think there would have been benefit for certain Canadian center backs to head to Rangers. I think this is also just how I feel about Cornelius's development, that he's done so well to make this journey from MLS. Then you go to Greek, to a relegation team in Greece, but then he really developed a lot there. And then he goes to Malmö and he really develops there. And then he goes to Marseille. And even though he didn't stick there, he was fine at Marseille. He's just more leaving because they love to sign 18 players every window. And there's all this going on. But I just felt like he could have stuck around in the top 5 leagues. So yeah, Cornelius is a shout. Otherwise, looking at the list, I'd probably I'd lean for the Daniel Jebison to Preston loan. Look, I know it's good because he's really going to play a lot, and he's with the manager that's trusted, with Paul Heckingbottom, who obviously knows him, gave him his Premier League debut. But one thing with Daniel Jebison, I do wonder if it could have benefited him to head outside the English pyramid. And I use Luc de Fougerolles as an example. Him going to Dender was such a mature move because it just pushes you so differently. And I think what we've seen sometimes, the English pyramid can be a bit of a grind. And I think for a guy like Daniel Jebison, who's been through so much, his injuries and stuff, I do wonder if a fresh start in a Belgium, just to use that as an example, where it's a different league, you're going to be pushed a little more technically because it's not as physical. I wonder if that could have helped his development a bit more. Because when you see Daniel Jebison, you can see the player there. You can see his height. You can see glimpses where he can bring down a ball, the awareness, but he just needs to build up areas of his game. And I just think the championship is such a grind that I don't know if he'll do it as much. And I say this because he had a loan to the championship last year with Watford, and it didn't work out already. Will this one work out better? I am a bit worried, and I wondered if a Netherlands, for example, could have been a great move like him. Kyle Larin, that was another move I didn't mind, because Kyle Larin kind of realized, yeah, you're dropping in leagues, you're taking a new adventure, but you're going to a bigger club than where he was at, and he's at a place where he should play in, and the style should fit him.
Yeah, I especially like that Kyle Larin move as well. It seems like he's moved a lot over the last little while, but this might be a club that he's able to really fight for a starting spot and potentially get a starting spot and find some form, especially because Robin van Persie wanted him at Feyenoord. What do you think of this move for Kyle Larin?
Yeah, I like that. Like anytime as a striker, Kyle Larin's really been blessed in that department because, of course, we have to remember Real Valladolid was co-owned or owned by the Ronaldo number 9. I say that because I know some old heads will go at me if I call him just Ronaldo. But when R9 wants you at that club, and now Robin van Persie, two of the best strikers in world history. I mean, again, it shows for Kyle Larin that for him, it's all about consistency, trust, and system. Because when he clicks, he can really, like, he catches fire in a way that not many other Canadian attackers can. Problem is, we just haven't seen him catch that fire enough with Mallorca. We saw it at Valladolid, we saw it at Besiktas, but Bruges, it didn't happen. At Mallorca, it only happened once or twice for about 3-4 weeks at a time. And we haven't seen it for Canada in a while, of course, since that run. So hopefully this league, I think, is really going to be the big one. The Spanish league it didn't seem to work out with him with the clubs he was at, where I think going to a club that's going to dominate a lot of games, play on the front foot, actually get Larin touches so he's not having to deal with 20 touches a game is going to do wonders for him. Because we forget, like, he's a player that for his size, and it continues to be the misconception about him, he's better with the ball at his feet. He likes to drop a little deeper. He doesn't like to always have defenders dragging over him, always being scoring headers. And I think there's this misconception of Spain that he was this out and out number 9 that was going to bully guys and do all that. I think at Feyenoord, Robin van Persie will kind of realize his skills and utilize them a bit more. So I really like that move from that stylistic standpoint. I can't hammer that home enough.
Are we going to see Kyle Larin with diving headers from midfield and Feyenoord? But I don't really think so.
I mean, it would help him. I think there was a stat that Larin's heading isn't that great. I'd have to find the source on that. It was his shot map over the last 3 or 4 years. And as expected, he scored a lot more goals with his feet than his head. Maybe Robin van Persie in training can give him a few tips because it doesn't hurt, to have that in your locker a little more, especially for a big guy. You're going to win some headers, even though it's maybe not his entire game.